Hey, time for another edition of Spitting Loogs with ESPN's Tom Luginbill. I am Lance Taylor from the next round. It is on Disrupt the Media. Like, subscribe. Very important. Give us that thumbs up. It is always brought to you by our friends at MyBookie, mybookie.ag, where they've got player props, they've got sides, totals, everything this Thanksgiving holiday. You can get it right there 24/7 at your fingertips. MyBookie.ag. Put in the promo code next round. They're going to hook you up at checkout with a big-time bonus at MyBookie.ag. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
It's my favorite holiday of the year.
It is?
You don't have to deal with the presents or the headache of the presents, all the stress of Christmas. It's in, it's out, it's family, it's friends, it's eating, it's drinking, it's football. I absolutely love it.
You love it because you just remember being in school and knowing that you got Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday off.
That's all true, man. Hey, I was telling you, my boys are off right now, and I'm like, you guys just embrace and enjoy this because there's going to be a day and time, for what you and I do for a living, and we'll get to your game in a little bit. You'll actually be on a call on Friday, on Black Friday. We'll be doing the show on Black Friday because of the Iron Bowl. And look, we're doing what we love to do for a living, so it's not that big of a deal. But there was something nostalgic about getting that entire week off and just laying around and just eating so much, just to the point of gluttony, and watching movies and sports, man. It was just awesome.
And finding a wet, muddy field to go play football in with your boys. Football on Thanksgiving, man. Let's go.
How have we been chaos free? I mean, it just seems impossible because the crazy thing, Luginbill, we had a moment in time, or not even a moment in time, a long time, where you had such a top heavy sport and you had dominance by 4 or 5 programs. And now it seems like we've got, and those 4 or 5 programs are pretty much still up there, but it seems like we've got so much more balance with the transfer portal and NIL. And this year, we're just not getting those massive upsets.
Yeah, we're not, but I wouldn't count it out just yet because I think we're due, right? I mean, something is going to happen. Who's it going to happen to? Will it matter in terms of is a team that gets upset actually in the college football playoff or New Year's Six picture? I don't know. But I think really, to be honest with you, one of the reasons why we haven't had a ton yet is like outside of the Jordan Travis injury to Florida State, we haven't had like marquee players on premier teams go down to injury. Like everybody seems to be playing with their best players on the field for the vast majority, if not all of the season every week. Outside of Texas, didn't have Quinn Ewers for 2 weeks. But I think teams are healthy. They seem to be focused. And I think the other thing too is the teams that we're looking at to say, okay, well, who's going to upset them? Like is anybody good enough to upset them? Like literally, like is I think Ohio State's good enough to upset Michigan, okay, but like who's good enough to upset Alabama right now?
I get that, but I mean, look back at some of the games. So Florida State, you were on that BC call.
Yeah,
I mean, BC had every opportunity to beat them.
Well, they should have lost to Clemson too.
Yeah, Kansas State should have beaten Texas. I mean, terrible play calling there, 1st and goal at the 4. I'm just jumping around. Michigan to Maryland this past week. Maryland had the ball down 5 multiple times. Just in the past, a lot of those games come to fruition and they complete the upset, and we just haven't seen it. And I look at the schedule this week. You're going to be in Austin for Texas Tech, Texas. If that game was in Lubbock, if the Apple Cup was in Pullman, if the Civil War was in Corvallis, I think going into this weekend, we'd be like, damn, man, we might get 1, 2, or 3 massive upsets.
Do you still kind of feel that way about the Pac-12, though? Like, I kind of, like, God, it's just, I don't know, man. I could see it. I know they're not in the right location because I totally agree with you on that front. And, the one thing I'll say, and I've got the game, so I got to be careful what I do say, but, like, the one thing about Texas is they just find ways to win, right? Not always pretty.
Yeah, the crazy thing last year, I think they had their 5 losses or 4 losses were by 7 or less. And this year, they have flipped the script and they're winning those really close games.
Yeah, I mean, 1-possession games, winning on the road. I mean, that was a TCU recipe a year ago, and now they can't win any 1-possession games. And so, yeah, I mean, it's hard to carry it over, and they have been able to do that. But the one thing Texas hasn't been able to do, they haven't been able to put their foot on somebody's throat and finish them. Like, do you remember what the score of that Kansas State game was? What the score of that TCU game was?
Yeah, those games were over.
Right. The Rice game, the Wyoming game. really Baylor's the only team where they just lined up and throttled them. I had that game too. I'm like, we're the official spokes crew of Texas Longhorn football. This is our fourth time having them, so know them pretty good. But I still think there's an opportunity for chaos. I really do. I just I feel like we're due, and it may just come out of nowhere and happen to somebody, and you're just like, no way. No way. And then that's how it generally happens.
Yeah, and it also happens on, the conference championship weekends. I mean, last year it looked like Caleb Williams and USC couldn't be stopped, the first couple of drives against Utah, and then Utah ends up blowing them out. And if the fact of the matter, they didn't deserve to be there, but if USC would have won that game, they would have been in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
So them losing opened a spot up. So I do think over the next couple of weeks, we probably get that. But sticking with the Pac-12, you mentioned them, and two coaches, Dan Lanning and Caleb DeBoer, are doing incredible jobs in year 2.
Yeah.
Jed Fish in year 3 is doing even a more masterful job with Arizona. But in year 2, it just didn't work out for Lincoln Riley and USC. And say what you want about the schedule, Oregon and Washington had to navigate those schedules too. Wasn't that? You've got the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and you go from 11-1 in the regular season to 7-5. There is something going on internally. There are people that are saying this job is too big. I don't agree with that. It did seem like something was missing. We know Alex Grinch is out, but looking at the recruiting rankings, I think depending on where you shop at, USC is between 15th and 20th, which I don't know. Does that mean that Lincoln Riley is going to lean heavily on the portal again? His portal, he had some bad misses this past year. I just don't know overall what's going on there.
Well, I mean, if you look at the roster, and again, I was the idiot that said Colorado has a bad roster.
Well,
bad roster?
Yeah, I don't think Colorado's going bowling this year.
Okay.
Yeah. Just letting you know, they've taken on a lot of water.
Yeah, my timeline's all of a sudden clear.
Hey, I'm telling you, AtlantisLock.com, when I win, nobody says anything. When I lose, I mean, it's a shitstorm. I mean, we know how it works. It works one way, it doesn't work the other. It's fine.
I know it. But I would say the same thing about SC. They got no players on defense, man. And it pains me to say that. Somebody that grew up the son of a former Pac-8 and Pac-10 coach on the West Coast, SC was this monument, right? They were the model of what college football teams looked like, and they looked pretty on the hook. They were great in the uniform. They had dudes everywhere, and they were built up front and just All-American after All-American. If you saw them in a uniform on defense, you would say there is no way that is USC. There is no. They are so bad on defense. And here's the problem. Is remember I was saying all last year how bad SC was on defense, and because they have Caleb Williams and they were plus 22 in turnover margin, it masked everything. Well, guess what? They're -3 in turnover margin, and Caleb Williams cannot save them.
Yep.
So as good as he is, it was bound to catch up with them. And the transfer portal additions that they made at the skill spots, good players that can help you. The 3 freshman wide receivers that they've got, Zach Branch, Deuce Robinson, and I'm missing the third one, Mekhi Lemon. Actually, they got a fourth one too. Really, really good players. They don't have any linemen. Like, if you go back and watch the UCLA game this past weekend, they had one of their offensive linemen get hurt. They insert this true freshman at guard. And Leatu Latu absolutely ate his lunch. And I'm like, this guy is playing for USC. I mean, it was embarrassing. And as good of a play caller and as good of an offensive football coach and as good of a quarterback coach as Lincoln Riley is, there is something really wrong internally because there's no plan. It doesn't seem like there's any plan to correct it. There's no plan to fix it, or how are we going to address this? And if we are going to address it, what's the blueprint? There's none to speak of right now. And it's sad to watch that team. I'm telling you, man, it is eye-popping. Did you know that since the Utah loss in the Pac-12 championship game, Lincoln Riley's 7-7?
Yeah.
Started off 11-1. They're now 7-7.
I heard that this past week in the Victory Bell game, and that is just, it's mind-boggling because I didn't know how good they would be. I thought that they would be much improved. I know it was going to be tough to navigate that Pac-12 schedule, but I am just blown away at where they are right now. And, the misperception for the Pete Carroll days it was all offense. His defenses were top 5 scoring defense every single year. Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, they were lights out. Do you think Dorian Singer, the Arizona transfer, is kicking himself in the ass when you watch what Arizona's doing right now? And on the other side, he really wasn't involved. Brendan Rice and Taj Washington were the go-tos. And Dorian Singer just never fit in.
No, he couldn't. That depth chart, I will say this, that depth chart at SC for the offensive skill, even Marshawn Lloyd, the running back, they're really good. Now, they're not very good up front, and that's where Caleb makes them right? But I'm not kidding around. They would be 3-9 without him probably. And if you looked at their schedule next year, they play the Big Ten schedule, Notre Dame and LSU out of conference. They still got some other Pac-12 foes that are coming with them that they've got to play. So UCLA's game's remaining intact. Like, with no Caleb, I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, who would be your Pac-12 coach of the year right now? Because obviously Lanning has got an incredible thing going right now at Oregon. DeBoer is still undefeated. And then I mentioned Jed Fish in year number 3 to go from 1-11 to where they are right now. I don't think anybody wants to play that team. Like, if you were to tell Oregon or Washington, you've got to play Arizona. And I know there's still an outside shot that Arizona, there's not. Oh, I guess there is. There is a scenario. But if you were to tell those teams you got to play that team, I don't think they want to play them.
Right, exactly. But you could also say to any team in America, do you want to play Oregon right now? And they'll say, no. Yeah. But that would be my coach of the year. And listen, I understand that that's a different measuring stick for everybody. Everybody, has their criteria for it. But when you were just 3 short years ago, by far the worst team in the league, and then flip the thing so quickly, and their quarterback got hurt. Remember, they had the transfer from Washington State, Jaden DeLaura. Yeah. Now they got a freshman, and they've got
by the way,
skill.
Is he going to be able to keep him?
I know. See, that's the other part in all of this, and it's a free for all for everybody. Now you develop a good player, you have a great player. And now all of a sudden you're having to pay your own players to stay in the program, right? And can you, right? Like, that's the other thing, is not all these programs are created equal.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that Arizona's NIL is even close to what you've got with Oregon and Washington. And obviously,
I'll tell you the other thing too about name, image, and likeness is that a school like USC, it's going to start hurting them if it's all about the flash and the Hollywood and the LA and all of that stuff, because I'm telling you, there are going to be players that do not care about playing football and do not love playing football. Highly touted guys that everybody was recruiting. And that's going to hurt them. It's going to hurt them big time.
Yeah, I got to be honest. If I had a kid that was going to play major college football and he had an opportunity to play at USC and, I don't know, throw somebody else out there, Ohio State, I just feel like the commitment to football, the on-field product, is much greater at other places right now. Now, hopefully that culture will change. We shall see. But right now, we had Brock Hewitt on, and he was like, man, I was outside the locker room, and it was all about, Gucci and Louis. It wasn't necessarily about winning football games.
I know. And
so
that's going to end up catching up with Colorado, too. And other teams as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. College football playoff rankings out. There was only one flip, and it was Oregon and Florida State, Washington and Florida State. Yeah. And I don't think it had anything to do with the injury to Jordan Travis. I think this was an easy decision for the committee based on the win in Corvallis. Michael Penix, the numbers weren't there, but if you watch the game, he was so impressive with those conditions. Have you ever seen
a quarterback throw a wet ball like that ever?
No.
So apparently the word on the street is he has between 11 and 11.5-inch hands. Every cold weather team in the league is going to be coming after him.
Yep.
He threw that ball like it was bone dry. I've never seen anything like that. And you're right, statistically, it wasn't just eye-popping thing, but that is a tough place to play against a good football team. And so the resume just popped him over Florida State. I don't think it had anything to do with the Jordan Travis injury.
Yeah, but now that you do have that injury, and I think this game would be a little more interesting with Graham Mertz. I don't know anything about Max Brown. I just don't. But now we've got backup quarterbacks, and it's still an opportunity for Florida. They're only a 6.5-point underdog in the Swamp. I thought it was going to be a great game with the starting quarterbacks, probably a great game with the backup quarterbacks. But do you think this is one of those moments we get a little chaos and we get one of the undefeateds that goes down? I know it makes the committee's job a lot easier if Florida State loses this game.
Yes, it does. And Are they going to look the same as they did with Jordan Travis? No. Does the playbook change? No. The game plan might change a little bit. What do you trust with Tate Rodemaker? What is he comfortable with doing? That may be something that's different than what Jordan Travis was comfortable doing. So there might be a little bit of a different approach from that perspective, but you're on the road. Remember, this is a guy that came off the bench and beat Louisville on the road. If you remember that a couple of years ago, as they were trying to flip this roster and get on track, and it was a huge win for the program. And when he's played well. He played well against UNA when he came into the game. I'm one of those people that feel like I don't care if they win on Saturday 16-13. I don't care if they win, or Friday, whenever that game is. I don't care if they win in the ACC championship 17-14. If you're 13-0 and you're the ACC champ and you had to do the two toughest games without your starting quarterback, you're in. There ain't no way they're letting them out. I don't think so. Everybody's saying, well, they got to look really, really good. No, they don't. I don't think that's true at all. I really don't.
I don't know, man. I just, if you put me on that committee, I am going eye test. And I believe right now your best teams are Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. Oregon's right there. So, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan's going to take care of itself.
Sure.
But here becomes the biggest dilemma to me, and we've still got weeks for this thing to play out. If Alabama, and I think they've got a really good shot at beating Georgia the way they're playing. Now, Georgia's out of this world when they want to play.
I know what you're going to say.
If Alabama beats Georgia, how in the hell do you drop Georgia to 5? Like, I can't do it. I can't see Georgia win 29 consecutive games, back-to-back national championships, and then lose to a hot-ass Alabama team and put them out. That's impossible.
Well, the thing that's crazy about it is, how do you not do that if Washington's undefeated and Ohio State or Michigan is undefeated and Florida State is undefeated, and you'd have a one-loss Georgia that's not the conference champ?
And Texas is the one-loss conference champ.
Texas sitting there too, holding the Alabama card. And I agree with you. Like, dude, you lose that game to Alabama, you are one of the 4 best teams in college football still. But the problem is the records in the conference championships of the other teams could literally prevent it. I mean,
but what would you do if you were on that committee? And one day you might be on that committee. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, if it really is about the 4 best teams, I want to give people the best product. There might be some Georgia fatigue out there, but I mean, hell, Kirby has built the model program right now.
He has. I mean, if we're going to say there's Alabama fatigue, or and we're probably creeping up on Georgia fatigue too. I don't know what I do, because I'm a lot like you in the sense that I do place a lot on the eye test. I do, I stood on that field on the Sugar Bowl, right, in the Sugar Bowl, and I watched Alabama and Kansas State in pregame warm-up, and it was varsity versus JV. I'm sorry. It was. And that was the team that beat TCU to win the Big 12. Now, Alabama had their opportunity last year, didn't play well enough a couple of times, so they didn't get in. Were they one of the 4 best teams in college football? Absolutely they were. And so I would hate to see that if you are in the scenario you outlined right there. If you are Georgia and that happened, you need Oregon to win, right? You need Florida State to lose.
Yep.
So that would give you your best shot.
Okay, so Thanksgiving week, again, you're going to be at that game in Gainesville. No, excuse me, you're going to be at Austin. The Friday game, Texas Tech and Texas 6:30 ABC. Thanksgiving in your house, I know it's all over the place because of what you do for a living, but even more so when you were a player and the son of a coach. I mean, what was Thanksgiving like back in the Luginbill household back in the day?
It was one of those. It was one of those holidays that no matter what, my dad would make sure he was home on that day from the afternoon on. So, like, let's just say you ate at 2 p.m. or whatever it was, he would have been home by noon every single time. And then they would travel out the next day wherever they were going. Christmas, we'd get him, me and my twin sister, we would get him usually from the 23rd to the 26th. That was about it.
Was he, I mean, and I hate to ask personal questions, but was he engaged? I mean, For a football coach, that time of year, man, I mean, because you've got so many things going on. You're wrapping up a season, you're figuring out the roster for the next year, you're getting ready to recruit. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on.
He is absolutely engaged, and I think one of the reasons why he was so engaged, and I can't speak, again, I have a twin sister, I can't speak for her. She was never in athletics. I was heavily involved in athletics. But just like myself with my son right now, my son is going to be playing in the quarterfinals this weekend of the North Carolina State playoffs. They're the number 1 seed. If he wins this week, I will get to see him play in the semifinals next week because our crew has off on championship weekend. And that will be the 4th time in 4 years I've ever gotten to see him play. So that's how my upbringing was. So if I had a high school game on Friday night, unless somebody on my team or the team I was playing was getting recruited, he and his coaches were out on the road recruiting Friday night. They were at other games. So when he did have those opportunities to be at home, I mean, it's not that you don't turn football off, but he was very family engaged. And I think that's why. Now, I'll be the first one to say that he was a bit unique growing up in the sense that he never forced athletics on me, never forced the sport of football. It was always like, hey, this is the world we're living in. If you want to come and hang out in the coach's office, by all means. If you want to come out and spend a training camp with us and sleep in the dorm with the players, by all means. But if you want to go play the flute, you got to want to go play the guitar, you want to go to the beach and go surfing all day, you do that too. That's fine. It's probably one of the reasons why I loved it, because I was never forced to love it. It was never shoved down my throat. It was always my choice. So holidays, yeah, man, holidays were big. My dad's birthday, just turned 77 last week, healthy, doing really good. And it's funny because we were talking about the Pac-12 today, and I had SC and UCLA, and sometimes he was the defensive coordinator at Arizona State in the late 70s all the way up through the mid 80s. And at that time, Arizona State was what people would want Arizona State to be now. They were a top 10 program. And he looks at like SC now, and he watches. He's just like, I cannot believe my eyes. I can't. I never in a million years would have fathomed that this is what SC would look like. So no, let me tell you something, man. There's nothing better than growing up the son of a coach. The things that you get to do and the things that you get to experience, dude.
Did you get free gear all the time?
Free gear all the time. You always had the best Halloween costume because you had a legitimate, full-blown, real uniform with a real helmet and real pads. And probably my greatest father-son moment with my dad. Well, number one, I got to work for him twice. He actually worked for me once, right before I got out of coaching. But probably our best moment was my sophomore year in junior college. We won our last game of the year. We were 11-0. We were the number 1 ranked team in the country. We're getting ready to play for the junior college national championship. And at that time, he had not been able to see a single game that I played in junior college because we played on Saturdays and not Fridays. So he didn't get to see a single game. It's Monday, I don't know, early afternoon before practice. The trip to get to where I was going to junior college at Palomar College is in North County, San Diego, and San Diego State's in South downtown San Diego. Traffic and everything probably would have taken him maybe 2 hours to get up there. So I come out of class, I'm walking towards the locker room, and I see him walking down the hallway at me. And it's Monday. And he walks up to me and he says, well, son, I've got good news and bad news. They fired me today, but I get to watch your game on Saturday.
Wow.
And so he got to see one game of my junior college career, and it was for the national championship, and we won it. And so
how'd you play?
Pretty cool. Awesome. I was, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
But I tell this story because it matters in the world that I'm living in with so many of these kids I see coming up today. I was a really good athlete and a very, very good high school player, but I was vastly undersized and I was underdeveloped. I played running back, quarterback, and wide receiver. Nobody recruited me at all. And I told my dad, I said, I want to play quarterback, and I want to play quarterback in college. He goes, well, if you're going to want to do that, this is what I would recommend you do. Go to junior college and see what happens. 2 years later, we were 21-1 with a national championship. I was a 2-time All-American, and I left junior college football as the all-time leading passer in the history of junior college football nationally, a record that lasted a record that lasted almost 10 years, and the guy that almost broke it but didn't was Steve Sarkisian.
Wow, before he transferred out to BYU?
Yeah, before he transferred out to BYU, he was 1 year behind me. So, but anyway, make a long story short, I got about an inch taller. I gained some weight. I developed as a passer. And in 2 short years, I had my pick of pretty much anywhere I wanted to go. And I was an academic qualifier, so I had no restrictions. And it just goes to show you, like, there's late bloomers all the time. There's a reason why Kurt Warner's go to Northern Iowa and Ben Roethlisberger's go to Miami of Ohio. There's not enough coaches. There's not enough programs out there to see everybody, right? And you're going to make decisions, and you're going to make the right decisions, and you're going to make the wrong decisions. And I just flat out wasn't recruited. So, like, I have a real appreciation for, like, those late bloomers that are coming out of high school and they get frustrated. And, you know, this was all before the internet. You know, it was all before any of that stuff. And so, you know, you had magazines and, like, recruiting like lists of top players and things of that nature. And that was it. But yeah, but my journey to play was one that was probably pretty improbable, you know, and I ended up becoming a 4-year starter at 3 different levels, and had a wonderful time. I couldn't have asked for anything more.
He is ESPN's and also 2-time All-American, JUCO All-American.
That's right.
Tom Luginbill.
And a junior college Hall of Famer, by the way.
How about that? Where's the JUCO Hall of Fame, by the way?
Me and Jim Fossil went in the same year.
Okay, where is the JUCO Hall of Fame?
I think it's at Bakersfield or Fresno.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's brought to you by LancesLock.com. Every league, every game, they've got it up. Or we've got plays on it, LancesLock.com. We've got a big holiday season package for you. We've also got a bowl package coming up, so go to LancesLock.com. Check that out. We also talk entertainment here on Spitting Loogs. Fargo, the movie, was fantastic in 1996. The Coen brothers did an incredible job with that. But FX has done a really good job of having these one-off seasons of Fargo. The first one, Billy Bob Thornton was the lead in that. And the newest season, season 5, just dropped. I got to watch about 10 minutes of it. Yeah, John Hamm, Juno Temple, one of the kids from Stranger Things. Okay. But it looks extremely odd, like most of these Fargos are. But have you watched some of the other Fargos?
I watched the first season, and I just got off of it. I don't know why, but I never watched anything. I have to catch up. But I've seen a ton of ads for this new one, and I think John Hamm's great. And I am interested in it. Like I'm interested because they all are some form of a murder mystery, right? I mean, they're quirky and strange, but it's
they're
still
all
based up in Minnesota or Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, and all based loosely on a true story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely want to get back in on it. Now, Fargo the movie, I absolutely loved. But I'm a little bit hit or miss on Coen Brothers movies.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, I am. Like, I thought The Big Lebowski was overrated. I thought
it's good, but it's overrated.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I thought was overrated.
Absolutely.
I like movies like Blood Simple, Fargo, the True Grit remake.
How about No Country for Old Men? I love that.
It's one of my favorites. It's one of those. If I see something in the theater more than once and I saw it twice, I love it.
So let me ask you this question about that movie, because I thought that movie went 15 seconds too long in the sense that the last scene, I know, sorry if I'm giving anything away here, the last scene should have been him walking down the sidewalk with the arm all broken, fade to black. I didn't understand the whole Tommy Lee Jones thing at the very end. Like, I thought it was unnecessary.
I did too, and it really confused a lot of people because it was obviously open interpretation on what actually happened. Was he in the hotel room? So, yeah, I agree. I think it would have been better after the car wreck if he just walks off.
Yeah, if he walks off. Now, I will say a movie that I thought was great, and it's not like your typical Coen Brothers movie, was the remake of True Grit. Was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Really good. Yeah. Right? That was really good. So, yeah, I like, but see, I'm the same way on Coen Brothers movies that I am with Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. There's like the Grindhouse stuff I wasn't a fan of.
I mean, it stuff's good. I don't know. Like, I mean, I like it. I just don't know if I love any of it. I had to see Pulp Fiction like 5 times before it really like resonated with me.
Okay. Well, it hit early for me, but there are a couple of Tarantinos I could take or leave. So Thanksgiving, though, there are 2 movies I always have to watch on Thanksgiving that I relate to Thanksgiving, and that's Sin of a Woman, which we've talked about before, and then Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So girlfriend has never seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So
Really?
we're going to watch that this Thanksgiving. Looking forward to that. That's a classic. Is there a certain Thanksgiving movie out there for you?
So probably not a certain Thanksgiving movie. I don't think so. But I will say this because I'm going to be by myself tomorrow. We had gotten permission to come in on Friday on the day of the game if we could get in earlier enough, and the flights didn't work out for me. So I got to go in tomorrow. So I'll be by myself. I'm thinking about just going and seeing either The Holdovers.
You
You
should.
told
I've
me about. Okay.
seen it twice
Or,
now. And,
really?
and
Okay.
yeah, and John Lunsford, one of our resident guys here, big movie guy, said it's the second best movie he's seen this year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm thinking about either doing that or seeing Napoleon.
I wanted to see Napoleon. I love Ridley Scott. I think Joaquin Phoenix is incredible. I think his best work ever wasn't as Joker. I thought it was as Commodus in Gladiator,
Yeah, in Gladiator.
under Ridley Scott. And I thought it was actually a good cast. Our boy Ryan Brown was like, it makes no sense, Joaquin Phoenix. And I was like, kind of makes sense to me. But I read the reviews on it. It's sitting at a 66% on the tomato meter. Yeah, it's like 3+ hours long.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still going to see it. I just don't know if I'm going to carve enough time to see it.
All right, so I got a new show that I started. We're only 2 episodes in, and I think it's going to turn into something really, really good. It's on Hulu. It's an FX show with Clive Owen, and it's called Murder at the End of the World.
Couldn't find it the other night because I thought it was on FX. I was going to my FX on demand, and girlfriend tells me last night, dumbass, it's on Hulu. So
but it is an FX show. That's what's
it
weird.
is. Yeah, so I am all in on this. So like this weekend
like
around football, I'm going to catch up on Fargo, and I'm watching Murder at the End of the World. It looks really cool.
I'm 2 episodes in, and it jumps back and forth in time with the female lead of her childhood and then her like teenage years and then being an adult. And I don't want to give too much away because I really don't know how it's going to play out, but it looks like it's going to be something it's a little odd, it's a little different, but I think it's got you guessing. So I'm only 2 episodes in.
Okay, all in. Not only football here, we talk food, we talk entertainment. It's Spitting Loogs, ESPN's Tom Luginbill, also in the JUCO National Hall of Fame. Look, have a great Thanksgiving, man. I'm excited to get to see your son play. Hopefully they win this weekend, and you'll be able to check that out. Have fun on your way to Austin. Be safe. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thanks, man. You too. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yeah, that's ESPN's Tom Luginbill here on Spitting Loogs, brought to you by our friends at mybookie.ag. Put in that promo code next round. They're going to hook you up at checkout all Thanksgiving weekend at mybookie.ag.